I have a Rode NT1A that I absolutely love and have used for voiceover work for over a year, and I wasn't expecting an upgrade anytime soon. But here it is, and it is an upgrade, but mostly in terms of accessibility. But with that in mind, is the Rode NT1 5th generation really that good? Well, I'll be recording this entire review with this microphone so that you can hear it at all times. Now let me know what you think in the comments. Now let's dive right on. So Rode was actually kind enough to send some other accessories that I really wanted to show off. They sent me a hat with their logo that does look quite nice, and I can see myself wearing this when it gets even warmer here in New York. But for now, I will stick with the beanie that they sent since we are still in season here, technically. And it is a pretty fluffy beanie that I think looks really nice too. They then sent me a tote bag, which isn't something that I would wear or use, so I just gave it to my mother. She loves it, she absolutely does, so I'm not going to say no to some extra tote bags in the future. Now in the package, you're going to find a microphone itself, you'll find a pop filter, you'll find a shock mount, you'll find an XLR cable that is really long and quite thick, and you'll also find the very long USB-C cable for USB use instead if you want to use this as a USB microphone. More on that soon. The exterior design consists of metal for the entirety of the build. This build has remained as one of the best out there, though the microphone was lighter than I expected. This microphone also has some appropriate branding around the front to really hammer down on the fact that this is a new microphone. You will find that the capsule is very well protected through the microphone grill, which is nice to see. Still, now on the bottom you're going to find the XLR port, and inside of that XLR port you will find the USB-C port. The placement of this port is very questionable to me, but there's something important missing here, but we will get to that soon. And now once you've mounted everything, you will have the full setup and it looks the same as before. But something that has changed is the design regarding the pop filter, as it extends now and you can adjust it to your liking. But for the most part, everything is really high quality, and this is a proper setup that comes in the box for you already. Everything is just packaged in for you, no additional purchase is needed. This is a large diaphragm cardioid condenser microphone. It's got a 32-bit float digital output for USB, a frequency response of 20Hz to 20 kHz, and an output impedance of 100 ohms. It's also super quiet, and with a noise floor of 4 decibels. This is a very interesting microphone to say the least. But let's go ahead and get into the sound test. This microphone, as expected, sounds pretty natural, and I don't know if it's maybe something in my voice, but there does seem to be more depth than what I hear from the NT1A, as it just sounds a little bit deeper than it, I think. But after comparing the two on my own, I found that this one does sound a little bit deeper, but it's just ever so slightly. So I wouldn't necessarily mess around with the low end too much on this microphone, but the frequency range does allow for a lot of room for corrections in post, which is something that we will touch on a little bit later. Now, I've been speaking into this microphone the entire time, so you should have gotten a good sense of how this microphone, or what this microphone sounds like in the XLR setting. I'd say that it sounds outstanding as is already, without any changes, but of course, we will still do an EQ test a little bit later. So first things first, we're going to be doing a proximity test. This is what the microphone sounds like from, I would say, maybe about 5 inches away from my face, I want to say, and my mouth isn't really directly facing the microphone either, so this is what you would expect there. Now my mouth is facing the microphone, I'm still at the same distance, but you're going to hear that the sound is still going to be richer because the sound from my voice is going directly into the microphone. Now if I do get a lot closer, maybe like 3 inches closer, this is what this microphone is going to sound like, and I really like the sound of it, to be completely honest with you. Now if I'm going to move just a little bit further, maybe like around closer to 12 inches away, this is what you're going to hear. It's still going to pick up quite a bit of your voice, but then you might start to notice other background noise a little bit more from here because it's not picking up as much of your voice. Your voice isn't as dominant as it was when you were closer to the microphone. Now we're going to be doing a plosives test. Pizza pickle display case. Bubble gum, that's not a P, that's not the P sounds. These aren't things with the P sounds, and no plosives to be tested. But however, I'm really trying to come up with other words that start with the letter P, but P, pickles, apples, pedigree, practice, product, people, plosives, pole arm, pop, 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 pop. Now we're going to be doing the same test, but without the pop filter. So pop, 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 pop. So now right now we're just going to do a noise rejection test. So I'm going to be quiet for a moment so that you can hear what it's picking up. Now the things that are on at the moment are going to be things like my PC over here, which I can still hear in the monitoring, but that should be the only thing that's on that should be picked up, I think, in my bedroom. My bedroom isn't perfectly sound treated or anything like that, but that's still everything that you should be hearing, unless there are other things happening maybe upstairs, since there are things running about. But yeah, have a listen. So when it comes to the EQ test, I didn't really make too many adjustments. I adjusted with how I would like it to sound if I was doing a voiceover and needed a microphone that sounded maybe a little bit brighter, a little more inviting, or with a slightly warmer sound, and maybe remove a little bit of that extra depth that I keep hearing. So I lowered the lows a little and brought down the mids mostly, but increased the highs just a bit too. And I would say that this is maybe a more natural sound in my opinion. I feel like my voice just sounds more natural this way. Something that's better if you're looking for a very clean and natural recording. So I balanced this microphone out a bit, I think. But if I wanted more of a podcast sound, then I would have just stuck with the original settings. I made all of these changes through the EQ on my Go XLR. And now I also wanted to make a note that the rest of this review, at the very least for the XLR portions, like when I'm done with the USB portion, everything is just going to be recorded using these settings. So you're going to be hearing the post EQ settings this entire time. Okay, so unfortunately, when I was doing the live recording for this portion, for the USB portion, for some reason, there was so much clipping in that initial recording, so I just decided to do a separate recording where I made the proper adjustments with Rode Connect and within my system settings, just to make sure that I would get the proper sound out of it and so that I wasn't clipping the entire time. And this is what you should hear, honestly. I think it sounds pretty good. But what you're looking at is pretty much just the A-roll, but the voiceover is obviously not going to be the same, so my lips are not going to be matching. But this is what the USB sound is going to come off as. It's still going to sound really, really good, so this is still what you should expect. However, there are still some comments that I have to make about the USB experience, so please stick around for that. So here is the thing about the USB connection. It's really nicely done in terms of its performance, without a doubt. It sounds amazing. It's still super quiet and does a great job in general, but I really hate the positioning of the port. I really dislike that it's inside the XLR port, because if this cable goes bad and I need to use another one quickly, then I may not be able to fit it in there properly. Also, considering that this is now both a USB and an XLR microphone, I think that some onboard controls would have been preferred here, as having to go into software to make adjustments like that is not really my personal preference. Don't get me wrong, Rode Connect is really good, but some physical controls would have been really nice here. Another thing that this is a big deal to me, particularly, is the lack of a headphone jack. On an XLR microphone, this doesn't matter, but on the USB microphone, I think it's a big deal that I can't monitor my audio at all while using this in the USB setting through hardware. So I would have to go through other means, such as going through Rode Connect, and from my experience, there's actually a lot of latency when I use Rode Connect and I'm trying to monitor the audio. So I don't feel comfortable really speaking into the microphone while using Rode Connect monitoring. I haven't been able to figure out how to turn that off or anything like that. So I think that you are pretty much stuck with it. So I just take off my headphones altogether when I'm using this in the USB setting. But then when I'm listening back to the audio, it sounds pretty good. So those are really just going to be some comments about the USB experience. It's not going to be perfect, and I don't think that it's really even going to be ideal due to certain circumstances, such as the missing headphone jack and just the fact that this is an XLR microphone first, clearly. It doesn't really address a lot of the needs of USB microphone users. who would want a similar experience but don't really have an audio interface to deal with. So I would have liked to see things like a headphone jack, onboard controls, and just more things to make this a better USB experience on top of that, even though it is still a great XLR experience. So this is a fantastic microphone that I think they nailed very nicely. I wasn't the biggest fan of the USB experience, but it is still great. The fact that you get 32-bit float is astonishing at this point from any company. I think Rode really made a great first impression in the USB scene with this implementation. However, that missing headphone jack kills it for me, as I don't want to use this microphone if I can't really monitor my audio very well. But as an XLR microphone, it is still worth every single penny. This microphone sounds extremely good, and I would strongly recommend it to those who need a natural sound. Those are vocalists, musicians, voice actors, etc. Even if you wanted a great podcasting microphone, this is a fantastic option. I would say that they really just went above and beyond and offered something great at an amazing price of $250. So yes, this is probably my favorite microphone around this price range. Strongly recommended. So thank you so much for watching this video all the way up until the very end. I do really appreciate it, and it's been a while since I last did a review on a microphone, so I hope that you enjoyed this one, and I hope that the information in it was useful to you. Now with that said, I am going to try to leave affiliate links to Amazon down below. If I can't find affiliate links, I'll just leave links to Rode's website, which either way, I mean, as long as you can get a microphone for yourself, that's really all that matters. But if you are to use my Amazon link, that would help a lot, honestly, because it does help me get more review units of different things. So that would be really helpful. So everything linked down below, if anything. Also, I do have other socials where you can find me. Instagram is going to be one. And also you're going to find me on Twitch, where I have not been live as of lately. But I will be soon. I'm just trying to take care of grad school first, more than anything. With that said, this has been Francisco from Tech Summit. Thank you for watching, and until next time, have a good one. Enjoy.